Today I'm on a mission to reach an epic campsite, but a large obstacle is on the trail. 2 months ago, I attempted to access this site and a large tree had fallen and blocked my path. My only option was to turn around and I simply wasn't prepared. And this time I'm ready. I've got this 14-inch electric chainsaw, and if everything goes according to plan, we should be able to clear that obstacle and we'll be able to bed down at the perfect campsite. The only question is, should I have had this chainsaw with me last time so that when I got to that obstacle, I would have been able to clear it without any problems? And in case you're wondering, this video is absolutely not sponsored, but like every other man out there, I just want to have a little fun with my chainsaw. I didn't take into account the fact that the last time I was here was the end of winter and now it's almost the beginning of summer, and so the greens are greening. There is foliage all around. Chainsaw is super easy. Forward is locked, backwards is, I'm currently unlocked right now. So in that unlocked position, if my hand slips, it will lock the chainsaw. To start it up, I've got it in unlock. I've got my battery in. You press this little lock, this trigger lock, and then 6,800 RPM of maximum performance. I do have this one battery, and this kit I bought with my leaf blower last year. It was a leaf blower, this chainsaw, and either a 4 or 5 amp hour battery. This one is my 5 amp hour battery, but in my Ego kit, I've got those 2 batteries, so I can almost continuously run whatever device I'm using while the other battery charges nonstop. Before I start actually cutting with the chainsaw, I do want to point out I am essentially dressed how I am going to be when I go minivan camping. If I was going to use this for more than just a few cuts, I have my eye probe, but a face shield, chaps, and some steel toe boots is the preferred minimum PPE or personal protective equipment. Moment of truth. This is the first cut with this chainsaw. I just want to get some of these branches off and let's go. Oh, like butter. That was actually much easier than I expected. I am optimistic that I will be able to get through the tree, but the next thing that really worries me is, am I gonna get my chain stuck inside of this tree? So I'm gonna go easy and slow, feel if I get any kind of resistance, and if so, I'm gonna pull it back out. Exactly sure what the diameter of the tree is, but my bar is 14 inches and I'm just under the length of the bar, so maybe about 10 inches in diameter. Also have this little elbow that's holding the tree right here. So I think I'm gonna make my first cut right along this line. This Ego 14-inch chainsaw cuts through this tree basically like butter. I'm super satisfied with that. I think for me, because I don't want to have these huge heavy pieces, I'm going to make as many cuts, maybe 3 to 8 cuts, and just slowly roll some of these things off the trail. Let's start another cut. Well, got a little bit of a chain maintenance for my amateur sawing technique. That's good. Let's get this back on and see if I can make some more progress. All right, good. Well, I would say that's a small path, but I need something at least wide enough to get the van through. And I'm just gonna keep cutting away and see where I get. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna have to cheat to get this thing done. I have essentially doled this chain. In fact, I was wondering when I researched this recently, why can you buy 5 of these chains for about 20 bucks? And I think it turns out that the chains are just, they're not meant to last very long, or you need to stop and do some frequent sharpening to keep your job going. Oh. So changing the chain is not that hard. You guys have already seen me take the chain off, put the chain back on. Not hard at all. And I can actually feel in my fingers just the difference in the sharpness of this chain versus the one that I've essentially ruined over the last few minutes. But let's get this thing on and see, can I finish the job? So what I'm actually going to do, because I've got plenty of room under the tree here, is I'm going to cut upwards from the bottom. If I can get a good grip, if I can get through the bottom there without touching the dirt too bad, I might be able to just lift this straight up. Let's try it. Perfect. And I feel like this is maybe 1 foot wider than I need it to be. So if I hug it on this side, I should be able to squeeze through here and get to that campsite. When we get to that campsite, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on whether or not I would have went with this again if I had to buy it again, because Ego does have the 12-inch, the 20-inch. They have, I think, 6 different variations of the chainsaw. And what I need to balance is which one is the best for my overland camper for these emergency roadside cuts versus something that you would want for more sustainable use in something like yard work. Now the real question is, did I cut this thing wide enough to get the Sienna through? Let's find out. I just barely scraped it, but we're past that obstacle. Let's get to the campsite. This is actually a very beautiful campsite. In fact, if my van was not lifted, I would not have been able to make it out here. So I'm super glad that I could do that. But let's talk a little bit more about this chainsaw. I am definitely an amateur when it comes to using a chainsaw. So chewing up that chain early, that is definitely my fault. I've got the extra chain, and I also have 5 other chains on order from Amazon. And so my theory, and I don't know if this is just throwaway culture or whatever, I'm going to use these chains as much as I need to, and then when I'm done, I'll put them aside, and then maybe in a year or two, if I ever actually use these more than a couple of times a year, I might get a chainsaw sharpener or somehow figure out or learn how to sharpen these blades. Ego does have a smaller chainsaw, and for my uses, for my intended use, I think I should have went with that 12-inch chainsaw. I did get this one at Lowe's. This was on the shelf when I got it, and that's one of the reasons that I got it like that. But if I went back today, I would get the 12-inch. They also offer, so this is a 14-inch, they have 12, they have 14, they have two 16-inch variants, an 18-inch variant, and a 20-inch bar as well. So with all those options, I feel like there is probably a perfect combination for anybody's uses out there. One thing I want to point out is I got probably 4 or 5 good tree cuts out of that. This is the 4.0, this is the 5.0 amp hour battery, and I have, in this case, at least 60%, I believe, based on the 3 bars here, these 3 battery bars. There are 5, I'm assuming they're 20% each, but less than 40% of my power consumed, or about 10% per major cut. That leaves me with 2 questions that I need answers to. Number 1, the chain burning out that quick, was that simply my bad technique? Did I overwork that chain too short, too fast? And then number 2, and this is a hot topic, is electric better than gas? Would you prefer to have something like this, where this can just sit on my shelf? I've got no worries about oil or 2-stroke oil or mixing fuel. This can just sit on my shelf, and when I need it, I just pull it out and I put it to work. I use these same batteries for the rest of my Ego ecosystem, and so they do get plenty of exercise. They work for my blower, for my weed eater, and in fact, over the next few years, I'll probably acquire even more of these Ego tools. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, and I'll catch you in my next adventure.